Hi guys, before you get into the next amazing conversation with another amazing guest, I just wanted to tell you I have now moved over to Substack. So it's the Never Settle Podcast.substack.com. The reason I've done that is because of the increase in censorship I am finding on YouTube, and I'm worried that maybe one day they're going to deplatform me. So please head over to Substack and subscribe. I'm very new into it. It's growing. There will be a lot more content on there going forwards and hope to see you over there. Well, hello, lovely listeners, and welcome, viewers. Today we have the wonderful Steve Forsyth back by popular demand. Um, Steve is a force for light. Last time his video got removed for whatever reason, so he ended up on Rumble. But the work that Steve's been doing since 2020 is just incredible. And I wanted to get Steve back on because Steve absolutely 100% believes that we've won, that the light is shining through more and more every day, and that we need to lose the fear. And because the energy over these last few weeks has been so intense and people are struggling, myself included, I thought, what a better guest to have on to give us all that positivity and the love and light that we're all craving right now. So, Steve, thanks ever so much for coming back on.
That's an absolute pleasure.
So, my dear, we've just been having a little chat off air. I'm wondering what to speak about, but in terms of how to structure it. But I think really the message I wanted for you to be able to convey today is to stoke up that hope and that inner knowing that we all do have. We all know that, the system's crumbling before our eyes. We know it is. But there's still crap happening while that happens, and there's still crap happening to people, myself included. And it's so easy to get sucked back in to the fear and thinking that the whole world's going to end, and oh my God, what am I going to do, and this, that, and the other. So I suppose let's just start with your perspective on all that, really. Just what you were talking to me off air about fear. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm seeing the same thing. I explained to you, I went to a community thing, and you've got people that were doing what they were doing in 2020, standing there with yellow boards, standing in the parks. They knew what was coming because we'd been shown it. We'd seen the 12 steps in the roadmap, all correlated with the Rockefeller document, Lockstep, in 2010. So people knew what the plan was. And then for me, it's just been a journey of unraveling. But like I said to you before, it's easy to talk about the light and the dark and us being energy and vibration and frequency. But that all started in 2020. The reference to the highest spike in the Schumann resonance, how that affected us in the physical. So we've actually been on this massive journey for the last 5 or 6 years, being ahead, embracing that. But in preparation for this final surge, the purge, if you would like,
Hmm.
the real strength, the intense photon lights coming in, the raise in the frequency. The Schumann resonance last week was up to 71. This is going to affect you in the physical. So, we've just had a conversation about fear. Fear has always been the control mechanism. And as I explained to you, neuroscientists say that 95% of our thoughts that we put out into that collective unified field come from our subconscious. That subconscious can be programmed. We've had constant fear, fear, fear. That's the psychological warfare part of this. And unless we break that, that is what we're going to put out into the collective consciousness. So what we've been being shown is you've got one narrative on social media where people are only sharing what they know is coming, the med beds, Gesara and Nesara. You've got the other part on social media showing you digital ID. But then very quickly they're showing you that that's all being exposed because that's linked into Ewan Blair, the former Tory Prime Minister's son, in £100 billion contract. I mean, when you know that the UK corporation was declared bankrupt and dissolved in 2019, and every single council in the UK is bankrupt, where would they be getting the money from? So why are you actually looking at something in the future that hasn't happened in the now? Because that's only a narrative to put you into the fear. So with the ability, with that knowing that we have the ability to affect change and create the outcome that we want, we just need to unite now, see what we actually see in the now, because not one thing from that list has carried on. It's all died. The 15-minute cities, Agenda 2030, every council was waterable, all dropped. Not one thing has been implemented. So why continue to live in the fear?
Some people,
And
sorry.
you know, it's like the courts. We had to learn. You've been to court. Yvonne Watson went to court. She proved that the gap, the bridge in the gap could not be bridged from the legal fiction to the corporation. So the living man and the corporation. So that's showing us that everything that we've learned about taking back your sovereignty, showing that their whole creation of the legal fiction is no longer, it's all void. So that's the reason that we used the fact that on the 10th of March 2025, in the Austin Chronicle, which is like a gazette, which you have to gazette for a month, is the birth certificate has been classed as securities fraud. Right, then on the 10th of April, Govinda Tidball from the Health Ministry goes live and announces that the birth certificate has been classed as securities fraud. So what we did is we've then evoked the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine, which states that any deviation in due process from the beginning to the end, everything must be dismissed. So when I went into Parliament on the 15th of July 2025, I specifically spoke to a barrister and said, I need to make you aware what we, the people, know. Firstly, the birth certificate has been classed as securities fraud. We've evoked the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. Therefore, from the moment we arrive and take our first breath, everything that's been layered upon us to enslave and entrap us must be dismissed. And he just went, well, yes.
And just for those that don't know what the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine is.
Yeah, basically, in simple terms, it says that if there's any deviation in due process from the beginning to the end, everything must be dismissed. So I took that. It is what it is. If the birth certificate, which is their fraudulent creation of our legal fiction, is securities fraud, there is nothing else that can be layered on us, because their whole legal system is deceptive, it's fraudulent, and it's treasonous against us. They are all a corporation for profit being paid for by a privately owned bank. They entrapped us in deceptive maritime and admiralty law. The language is deceptive, it's not our language, and it's an act of treason.
And is that a historical document that you've evoked?
Yeah, I mean, the reason it jumped out at me is I just saw something on it and it said that 99% of barristers and lawyers don't know it exists. And it's a 47-page document, which is readily available. You just type it in and you'll pull it up.
Yeah.
But it's just connecting the dots with it all. And if you deliver it and they can't rebut it, it stands as truth. So, yeah, so for me, it's this constant, you know, I can only share what we've done and where we're at. And ultimately, everyone has free will. But so many people talk about spirituality and talk about the light. But you've got to remember that we're one. So this whole other narrative of young fighting age men in hotel creating division, and that's always been a card, same as religion, you know, to create that division. We all have to come together now, because, you know, I said to my Muslim friends a while back, I said, look, we've been shown everything through this period. You don't have to go too in depth with it. Your mosques made you wear masks. They locked the doors on you. Our churches did the same. Religion in Latin means religare, to bind again, to keep in bondage. All religion took the God from within us, our life force energy, our light, our soul, removed it, created a false idol so we could live under control and fear. Luke 17:21 in the Bible says the kingdom of God is within. 1 John 1:15, God is light, in him is no darkness at all. So if we all get into that space where we take back our sovereignty, we take back our power, with that knowing that nothing stood in front of you is more powerful, more knowledgeable, stronger, or more loving than the God within you, that is your soul, which weighs 21 grams, then why would you ever fear anything? Because if you actually look at the process we've been through this period, everything has collapsed. Everything. So the end is the beginning. We're only going into the light. As we raise our frequency in a vibration, frequency coalesces mass, which means we will continue to grow together. And we will create our heaven here on earth as it was always meant to be. So we're taking this quantum leap in our physical as well as the technological, because we've got all these advancements in technology, healing modalities, which have just been announced again, the med beds. They've always known that we're frequency and vibration being, but it was all hidden. Royal Raymond Rife proved in 1930, 1150 hertz kills all mutated cells, eradicates them. They've always known this. And every single time it gets reset and it gets hidden and dropped. But as I said to the doctor in Parliament, in 1910, John D. Rockefeller took over the medical education, training, our children's education with one objective. His Masonic creed states, we will keep their lives short, we will keep their minds weakened, all the while making them believe we're doing the opposite. So even with that evil intent, they still know you can't destroy energy, you can only transfer it. So they had to make us believe. And how did they do that? They erased 90% of our memory through poisoning, through drugs, through the education system. Lie after lie after lie. And it had to get to a point where they've now just tried to depopulate the planet to 500 million using a bioweapon to wake us up. And they've stolen 112,000 children a year from the UK and 8 million children a year from around the world, every single year. And we had to take responsibility for that. And we've had to endure the darkness and the pain to make us resilient, to make us stronger, to make us know how to ensure this doesn't happen again. And we had to endure this. But there's no bad coming, only good.
I think some people will struggle with that because obviously the whole bio weapon from 2021, you know, it's still harming and hurting people. You said yourself you were chatting to a 25-year-old recently about what's happened to his body. And there are a lot of people that'll be sitting there thinking, this should have been stopped by now. You know, people like you have been out there on the front line, talking to people, creating the awareness, trying to get things shut down. And yet here we are, and you've still got surgeries and pharmacists that are pushing this regardless. We've still got people, like I keep saying it. I just went to my 6th funeral of the year a week ago, and 5 of those are under the age of 53. And if the med beds are there, which we've known about for a few years now, why the hell, And I know, Steve, it's all about waking people up, and guess what, people.
I have struggled with that all over this period because and that's why I keep pushing because we needed to get to that collective consciousness where we'd be acceptant of the truth, and that's hard to carry that when you've known it from the outset. And we have to remember that this is a war, but it's a war like no other. Major General William Walker stood in front of Washington, D.C., the Ring Fence Corporation of Washington, D.C., on the 18th of the 1st, 2021. and 2020, and he stated, "We are here to provide the smooth transition of military power." So that this was all obviously rolled out initially by the industrial military complex, because what's about to happen was actually supposed to happen back in 2000. And then obviously the false flag of the towers stopped it. And we've now been in this perpetual conflict after conflict after conflict. So had to be one big cleanup operation. But how do you do that without the assistance of the people? How do you speed it up? You know, there would have been that divine space and place where we would start to awaken. They would have known that. And we, the people, had to come from the bottom up and make them know that we knew in large numbers. And then they would go into panic mode. They would start emailing, texting, phoning each other, and they'd expose themselves. And in their arrogance, you know, the ones that have chosen to keep doing what they're doing, that is on them. You know, we've done nothing but try and give them every opportunity for redemption. But you get to that point when you're in full and utter control that you have no choice to stop further loss, harm, injury, and suffering. And we've still got children that are in the wrong hands. Those sons and daughters need to be returned immediately. You know, and that's the reason for keep pushing. I don't want to be doing talks. You know, I've got my little ones were 7 and 9 when this started. You know, I've been absent. You know, and I'm trying to navigate like everyone else is. You know, but we agreed to do this, and I swore to Madeline in 2020, I will not stop until this is over, officially over.
Yeah.
And we keep doing what we have to do, and yeah.
Yeah. I think what I've also noticed over the last couple of weeks is the frustrations coming from people that haven't actually been on the front line but are aware of it all. You know, there are people that know this stuff but haven't basically put their foot into the fear. They've kept in the comfort of the system whilst knowing the BS of everything. And
But
then
you
they,
know that's also their choice, Mel, isn't it?
of course it is, yeah.
Ultimately, if they do know, they're obviously operating at a vibration and frequency that's holding a space. So just being is enough. And just some had to go forward, some had to be the advanced party, the recce troop, because we had to clear the way for everyone else. And like I said before, this is a shift of everything. You can only transfer everything, can't you? So how do you hand the power back to the people, which was the whole narrative being said at the inauguration in 2016. This is not about going back to Washington. This is about handing the power back to you, the people. How do you do that if the people haven't got a clue who to trust, who is able to assist them in that transition into the new? We had to wake up, and we know the pitfalls. You know, and we had to come together, and we've had to come together from all walks of life. You know, it's
That's true. My
yeah.
life looks very different now than it did.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. So what would you say then for people? Because at the moment the latest thing is digital ID, right? It's been mandated, all that crap, whatever, that nobody asked for and everybody's against. And it's a bit like when all the flags have been put out in the streets and all of that. So for me, when I sort of watch this stuff, it seems like this is waking up the masses in a different way to what we've been sort of experiencing the last few years. Like an ex of mine used to say, if you were a Jehovah's Witness, I'd shut the door in your face because
Mhm.
I was talking about this stuff and nobody wanted to listen. Um, so now we've got things like digital ID and people putting their flags out in patriotism and in support of being English or whatever. And that seems to be permeating through the masses more than the other stuff did. So, what's your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah. Well, we've been monitored from the outset, haven't we, to see where we are, where our consciousness is. when we talk about what you put out into that unified field to lift the collective consciousness, is you can see how quickly you can actually see the reality of where that narrative is how quickly you'll think something, you'll see something, and then you'll just go on social media, and the very thing you were talking about the night before is the first video you see in the morning, because they would have the ability to capture that. If they had a super quantum computer, that unified field is a physical thing that can be captured. So they'll know exactly where we are consciously. And regardless of what people's reasoning for now standing up, yeah, a lot of it will be, oh my goodness, these people were showing us this list in 2020, and one of them was the digital ID, and now we're seeing it. But none of it is going to be rolled out, but it's that complete reversal of nothing at all that was being said in 2020 was a conspiracy. It was all the truth. So the future proves the past. So you get to that point where there is nothing else, is there? They've just literally turned around and gone, £100 billion contract is going to Tony Blair's son the day after they announce that it's being launched. It's not going to be launched because they have no money. And that you're watching AI ministers and world leaders, and you have been from the start. They don't exist.
Well, you did meet Rupert Lowe.
I met Rupert Lowe. Was it the Rupert Lowe I knew? I met Andrew Bridgen in 2022, and I sat with him. And the first thing he said to me was, "The people aren't ready to hear the truth." This is December 2020, and I said to him, "I said, you are kidding me." I said, "Look, I know in April 2020 you were in the pubs in Chelsea calling us the useless eaters and the plebeians doing your PPE deals." And he sort of scoffed and went, "Well, I wasn't." I said, "I didn't say you were. I said you all were." And that the man that came back from America after him telling me he was going to America and wasn't the man I sat with in the December. And I sent him 8 different images of himself to his mobile number and said, "Which one are you?" Because that's the man I sat with. Who are all these? And he told me that because he'd had whatever he'd had, it changed his appearance. And I was like, come on, this is just ridiculous. So we've been played on every level. And listen, Mel, if you can swap out, everyone knows Biden was never Biden.
Oh yeah.
If you can swap out the most powerful president of the biggest military force in the world and try to fool people, they did it to wake everyone up. Putin's not Putin, Trudeau's not Trudeau, Merkel wasn't Merkel. They've all gone. They showed us when Charles went to Canada, they had behind his throne, it had such and such a date to 2017. Everyone capitulated in 2017. And yes, it was a story too far-fetched for people to get their heads around back in 2020. But now everyone's going to see it, and now everyone can see it. And they've only got to go back and have a look at the opening ceremony of the 2012 Olympic Games and go and watch that on YouTube. And you'll see nurses doing TikTok dancings. You'll see the Grim Reaper taking your children out of the NHS wards, and you'll see the coronavirus sign. So, yeah, the truth has no enemies.
Yeah.
And it always prevails. And ultimately, the beauty of all of this is people will unite and people will come together because, all I see is people realizing that we are one. All anyone wants to do is live in peace and love. That's it. And we've been enslaved and entrapped, and retribution, I just feel grateful, and I feel, I took the word hope out of my vocabulary longer. I just trust, and I have unwavering faith. And I know that all of our sons and daughters are going to have the most incredible futures. And we will all come together. And it's going to be beautiful.
Yes. I agree with you. It's difficult to see it when you're having your bad days.
Yeah.
But it's always there. You know, it's always there, and you know you're sort of fighting with yourself to bring yourself back to that place of love and light, and like you say, faith and trust, um, and that deep knowing. And that's where I keep pulling myself back to, keep pulling myself back to, and then the optics play out, and then this happens, that happens. You're like, oh, fuck, you know, and you get pulled back in, and it's so easy, you know. And there has been so much black energy these last few days and last few
Yeah.
weeks. You know, I'm seeing it playing out with my son as well, who suffers with his anxiety and stuff, and it's gone through the roof.
I mean, one thing I would say, Mel, just on a practical note with that is obviously what I started doing in 2020 was using frequency every night,
Yeah.
and it it obviously it helps with the flow, but it helps with 174 hertz gets rid of pain, 528 hertz repairs DNA, 432 hertz is the healing energy. So, but you feel it, and if it doesn't resonate with you, move to one that does, but you will start to feel less anxious. What you're actually doing is enhancing the gifts that are coming in with the rising of the frequencies. And it's funny because my little ones were so anti me even talking about any of this, but I go upstairs now and I can hear them with the frequency on when I go to bed. So that it's they obviously feel it. But I would say to anyone, just give it a go and try it, because that works.
Say that again. So 174 was for pain.
Yeah.
What were the other two?
You got 528 hertz, which repairs DNA. 432 hertz, which is the full healing energy. I mean, it's becoming more and more mainstream now. Even doctors I'm talking to are sort of epidemiologists talking about frequency. You've got different modalities that have been around for a long time and suppressed, like the Rife machine, Royal Raymond Rife.
And the Orinoco healing, obviously, which you've got and I've got.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, my son was doing that every day, and he's avoiding it now. Um, because I think the last time he went in it, he had a heightened experience in terms of his breathing and stuff. And I keep saying to him, you have to be consistent, you know, you have to be. But I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, but
Yeah, to be honest, it's like with all of this, you don't have to push any of it. It's just when you feel it, it's like you get drawn to it, because ultimately all it is the life force energy field. So when you're feeling out of sync or you need something, you literally get drawn to going, oh, I need to go and do that. I feel now I'm ready. He's gone into that space where he now needs to deal with whatever he's released. Because everything is trapped trauma, and it's energetic, physical trauma. So, yeah, my boys were the same, but they every now and again you'll just find them laying in there. So I wouldn't worry about it.
yeah.
But it is incredible, because this is a massive journey, and without us all sharing this and sharing our own experiences, we wouldn't have been able to speed it up the way it has been.
What do you think, totally aside here, the whole Charlie Kirk thing, which I just believe is a big psyop, and it's a big.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't even. Someone sent it to me. I looked at it. I heard the shot. I just said that's fake straight away.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even. It didn't even. The way you wouldn't fall like that, you wouldn't hear the sound. I just didn't pay it any attention whatsoever, because there's so much distraction out there. And we're trying to deal with the reality of what's on the ground as well. It can be. You get signs from the story in the background that's going on, to where we're at, and everything I know has been announced already. 2021, obviously the quantum financial system was announced, the ISO 20022, and why that there always seems to be, when there's an announcement, there's always something else significant that happens around the same time. So Ahmed Massoud's son, at the same time, had just finished his Sandhurst military training and gone back to Afghanistan and was doing an international broadcast on all over the news, talking about peace and equal rights for women and children. Now, why I saw that as significant is, firstly, obviously, I haven't been in Afghanistan, but Ahmed Massoud's father was assassinated 2 days prior to 9/11, and he was supposed to be coming to Europe to sign the peace treaty, which would roll out Gesara and Nesara. So it's all, everything's entangled. If you see, so we're being shown everything, but we just need to be able to connect the dots and just keep going with what we're actually meant to be doing.
Yeah. So you believe,
I just saw it as a mission. It's just this is all a remembering.
yeah.
And ultimately, if you listen to yourself, you know what you need to do next, or what resonates with you, or what doesn't resonate.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think if I think about my own personal journey just these last few days, because there's certain things happening, and then what it pulls up is all of your obligations, perceived obligations, all of, like I said on a message just to my partner earlier, it's been like a seismic shift in these last 2 years from me being this, you know, I've always had to be independent. I was a single mom, working single mom. I'm the main breadwinner. I'm the one that's creating the safety and the security for my boy, and also for other members of the family. And then to be in a situation where all of that that I've created in this fake system, for all the right intentions, but realizing it's all built on sand anyway. However, it might be built on sand, but it's still more secure than potentially somebody else's situation. But and I've had this like identity of being the provider and trying to make a success of myself, and trying to create a pension for old age and all of those sorts of things that we all do or try and do. And then when you challenge the system, it can all go like that.
Yeah,
If you know what I mean. And that's
I get it 100%. I've had my car stolen. I had my bank account closed. I can't get work in the industry that I'm in. I've just had to literally get to a place where I just go, I try. I have to trust and
you
have
have to
faith in this
trust.
process, because it is literally it's yeah, and it's hard, obviously hard for me, because I'm now having to rely on Madeline to hold everything together while she's supporting me now while I'm able to do what I want to do. But I know it causes so much fracture, but ultimately I was prepared to die for my kids, and going through this is, if that's what it had to take, it was worth it.
Your kids might not agree with you if you had have gone, but thankfully you're still with us. So, um, yeah, it's just the old shit that we have to let go of, really, and
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at these last even these last 2 hours before coming onto this. For me, trying to sort my brain out, and like you say, keep that trust. Um, so Nasara Jasara, you're a full believer in that.
Well, I sort of, when you look at this as a story, and look how we've been controlled by the elites. So, people moan about individual people, working people, taking from the system, and if someone's on benefit. So these people, these billionaire companies, these corporations, they pay no tax. They don't contribute to society. Everything is in a trust. So part of
Yeah.
what we've had to learn, isn't it, with the birth certificate and everything else, is our birth certificates that were created fraudulently and treasonous. Actually, in law, it's actually larceny, mayhem, and genocide, because of the detachment. So they can, in the Black Laws Dictionary, they consider us a problem child, dead lost at sea, basically detached. The birth certificate made from something that's in decayent, the cells from the umbilical cord and the detachment from the placenta. So their legal fiction is created through the birth certificate. Now that birth certificate is in the CESCA, they turn it into a financial bond, so it has an ISIN and a QSIT number. But that's our trusts. So these elites have always controlled us. They never pay for anything, but the narrative that they were trying to spin on us as the story was by 2030, you will own nothing and be happy. When the truth is they've always owned nothing and always been, but got greedy and then wanted to control us and then eventually eradicate us. So the flip of it is we will have access through the quantum financial system to our trusts. So we actually don't need to physically own anything, but we'll be a lot happier because that is ours. It's been generated through our energy and our efforts. And that's how you reverse everything, because that's all they've ever done. There's not one thing that they say they've done in our favor for the good. You've only, once you see that, you can't unsee it.
We don't own anything anyway because everything's registered to the crown. So, as it stands, unless you can pull yourself out of the system and then do it all differently. And then there's another theory that Kescavi trust that's not ours because we are not the legal fiction anyway.
But
Yes.
you know, but this is the whole thing, isn't it? It's if you look at the optics of it in the spiritual, right? In 2020, there were 650 planes, right, that were moved from the Vatican to the States, to the Treasury, and they were full of gold, right? So they were our sole contracts that were kept in a vault underground the Vatican. That was our physical wealth being shifted. So why, when you're talking about reversing the system, and instead of 99% of people owning nothing and 1% having 99% of all the wealth, if you reverse that, then the idea Gesara is global and national debt relief.
Yeah.
So what people will realise is, and people I used to talk to bankers about this and people from the sovereign trading funds and everything else, and they'd always make an excuse and say, well, if you gave everyone too much money, they'd go off and they do this and they do that. And my go-to answer was, who are you to decide?
Yeah.
For a start? Because I remember having a word with a particular trader who told me there was enough money in one account just in Deutsche Bank to give every single person on this planet £11 million tomorrow. Right, so that's just one bank account. I mean, I've met Chinese elders worth 57Q. Right, so it's the beauty of, but the love of money has always been the root to all evil. Right, so it's by creating abundance, what people actually realize is it's so insignificant. It has no relevance at all. Because if everyone has money, everyone then just goes back to naturally exchanging their gifts, their skills, their unique things they can do for one another. It doesn't become about an exchange. So it would be the perfect way of making people realize that was always the trap, the want of the trappings. So well, I don't make the decisions, Mel. But we've been shown the QFS is very real. We're going into an era of quantum technology. Energy should be free. Water should be free. More debt will be written off. That's the whole idea. The Chinese elders, you've got the red dragons and the black dragons. Black dragons were the CCP. Red dragons were entrusted with the heritage funds. All that money, all those assets were kept off ledger, and they've been brought onto ledger. They're paying off and redeeming the historical bonds to bring intrinsic value to them. That money will be put into the quantum financial system for humanitarian projects. And why won't everyone get access to their own trust through you know, it's like people say to me, well, we're not seeing a change. Well, you show me one bank in the high street that looks like a bank did in 2020. They look like business centres.
Mm.
You know, I went into HSBC Bank 4 months ago, and I tried to open an account, and I asked them if they were ISO 20022 compliant. The guy didn't have a clue what I was talking about. He went upstairs, he spoke to a business manager, came back down, and he said, "We have passed phase one compliance, and by mid-July, we'll be fully USD compliant on the ISO." Because I actually tested taking in a financial bond with an ISIN and a QSIP number in it. So I just wanted to see what they'd say. But so we know it's happening. Go and try it.
Well, I did. I actually, and this was through you, because I've submitted some promissory notes, and they have been tracked, and there are QSIP and ISIN numbers
Yeah.
For notes that were rejected and never returned. But somebody's making some money out of them.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, this is what they did it years ago, didn't they, with the mortgages, the CMOs, you know, grouping together people's mortgages and leveraging them and using money on them. The system's corrupt. You know, to get into a tier one trade years ago, because you'd have to have a minimum of 100 million in your account, and the return was 100 million, was 100% a month for 10 months. And then the sovereign traders would continue trading that for another 2 years. And they were the sovereign traders.
Yeah.
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 And it's just creation of wealth from thin air, because it's not backed by anything.
Well,
So,
energy. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that your little ones are coming back from school soon.
Yeah.
What pearls of wisdom and what love and light can you share with us before we finish, in terms of, you know, people that are struggling at the moment and trying to keep it together? What's the best thing you think they could focus on to get them in a strong place, or stronger place?
Yeah. I mean, the easiest way to you have to look at what's actually around you now, in the reality of the now, not what people are trying to share to take you off course or distract you. Look at you know, not one thing that you've been in fear of happening over the last 5 years has actually been implemented. None of it. So why pay credence to something else, another narrative that's coming up that's so obviously being orchestrated? You knew it was a possibility right back in 2020.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Look at actually what is right here in front of you now. Look at the change in how people around you are acting. You look at the dynamics. Walk down the high street, go and look at a bank. Go in and speak to someone in the bank. Just live now and actually realize, oh my goodness, this has all been happening under my nose. Look at all your, you know, I say to people quite, all our council vehicles have changed branding. They've changed their colours, and people say to me, that's happened everywhere. And I was like, everywhere's got roadworks. I'm like, okay, for a minute, how? If every council is bankrupt, who's paying for it? How are these people still getting paid? How are they? Because there's a smooth transition happening in the background. You know, when the hospitals declared a state of emergency in 2022, I knew that the logistics corps, our military, were driving the ambulances. You know, they were on 24-hour standby. So there has been this. How are people willing, able to walk around London, cutting down all the ULEZ cameras, and then it being shared all over social media, and then the police embracing the people that are doing it? that's the reality of what we're doing. We just have to have the courage to stand in our truth and honor and actually go forward and do it.
Yeah.
And we do. I can't say we didn't ask for this, because when you know that we did and we accepted it, and you don't take it all too personally, and you know there's only good coming. How can you not be grateful? Because when people realise what has been kept from us and what the real truth is, everyone's going to be grateful, aren't they?
Well, you would hope so. I think some people are going to stay in denial way, way, way longer than they ever should. And then you've got that whole 3D, 5D split and two different realities and all that, whether that's a thing. But we all have our own reality, regardless. I'm living in exactly the same environment as maybe my next door neighbor, and he sees life completely differently to me. That's the whole
Yeah.
3D, 5D, or 4D, or
But,
call it what you
but,
want.
but it's the same thing again, though, Mel. It's if you have a glass of clean water and a glass of dirty water, eventually that clean glass it's vibrating at a higher frequency. It will start cleaning that dirty water, right? So it's just the more people that go into higher vibration and frequency, actually in the physical, draw the others in. So who wouldn't want to be a part of that?
Yeah.
It would just grow and grow. It's like that whirlwind going through the desert storm. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And some just had to go forward and take the slings and the arrows. Because that was our mission. And you can only utilize that full power within you, that unmanifested, that unified field, if you've dropped everything else and you're doing it with the right intention and it's authentic. And then you've got full access, and then you can spin like a tornado.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that Madeline's been supporting. I've had the same with my partner Mick. I've been absolutely not able to bring in any sustainable income anyway over the last year or so.
Yeah.
It's all consuming.
Yeah.
Um, so I totally get it. Well, thank you. We were wondering how this conversation was going to go, and I think it's gone perfectly.
Okay. Great. Yeah.
Thank you
No,
so
thanks,
much.
Mel. Thanks for everything you do. And it is hard juggling it all, isn't it, when you're dealing with your own reality and everything else. But it's worth it.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling myself, even though my family think I'm crazy and all the rest of it. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. That's what I keep saying to myself. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, and there is, like I say, there is only the now, isn't it? And if we call this in right now, that's why I just keep, ultimately, no one wants this to continue. I told you about the locksmith, giving him a hug after stood down, the police officer admitting to me that it's all fraud. They've all woken up. They've had enough time now. They're not stupid people. They know that when this breaks, the system's finished. Doctors and nurses have told me the same thing. Occupational therapists, physiotherapists, system's broken, can't be fixed. So, and these are people still currently in the systems, and everyone wants this over now. And we had to get to that place but the most important thing is that there is no judgment from us. We've got to a place now where there's none of this. Well, I told you so. It's gone way past that. It's just like,
Yeah.
thank goodness, this is done. It is so done, because yeah, they can't keep the charade up. It's a pantomime. The courts, it's a joke. You've already had the judge tell you. They told us everything. And when I submitted all my evidence, I have acknowledged and seen all of your emails. What more did I need? I submitted everything, not one thing rebutted. And then he put the onus on the Crown Prosecution Service. So we got this.
Yeah. Okay.
All
People,
right.
people, we've got this. Thank you, Steve. It's been an absolute
Oh, it's a pleasure, honestly. Lots of love.
Lots of love.
Bye.